Okay, welcome everyone to today's PM Book Club meeting. We are going through a month-long journey of reading the Change Ninja Handbook, and today is our third meeting where we have the author herself, Tam. We will be introducing the book, and we will hear from Tam as well. We encourage everyone to ask as many questions as they can. But before we begin, some ground rules. We are always respectful of each other's views. This session is being recorded, so if you don't want your face to appear in the recording, please turn off your video. Use chat for ideas and discussions, and always send feedback and suggestions to us so that we can make the book club better. So with that, let's get started. I'll introduce myself. My name is Himanshu Jain, and along with Nick, I am one of the conveners of the PM Book Club. I am a professor at the Westminster Business School. Nick?
I too, I'm a lecturer at the University of Westminster myself. We do teach project management, hence the Project Management Book Club. We obviously love books, and both Himanshu and I are also members of Responsible Project Management, a movement that hopes that the change that projects bring and the change management therefore is actually for the greater good, whatever that is. But we have to act responsibly, especially, and we are driven by the sustainability goals, the United Nations sustainability goals, essentially. So that is an angle that we have. But actually, we love reading books. And we have to thank you for the book that you have written, which is nice and easy to read. Even though I died many times. No, I died the one. then I cheated.
There's no cheating as long as you're learning.
So before we move on to Tam, is there anyone who would like to?
Christina?
Anyone who would like to introduce themselves?
I'll go ahead. I've only been here once. Oh, sorry. Somebody else wanted to speak.
Welcome.
No, keep going.
Okay. I've only been here once, and I think it was very early in the year. I don't know. And my name is Maru. I'm based in Düsseldorf in Germany. I'm a what you call a personal Kanban and personal agility addict freak. So of course, project management books like the Change Ninja Handbook are super interesting, and that's it. Yep.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I can go next. I'm Christina. I'm in New Zealand, and I've been really enjoying reading the book. And now I finally have my real copy, which is much easier to read than the Kindle version, only because I can't keep up with where I am. And I've really enjoyed reading it.
Okay. Thank you.
This is Sumant here. I haven't read the book yet, but I look forward to reading it. I look forward to reading it. Actually, I was in Nick's class yesterday when Nick said that there is a meeting like this with the author. So I thought, why not let me just join and have the insights about the book. But I've been pretty much into managing projects, and I have a total work experience of 25 years into pharmacovigilance, which is basically health and life sciences. And I've just joined this Westminster University for my master's in project management. Thank you.
Thank you. Good. Lovely. let's move on, Himanshu. We don't have that much
Yeah.
time.
Absolutely.
And
So let's hear from Tam.
Hello. What would you like to know?
and first of all, to thank you for the book, because it is a nice book. We are a strange book club in that you don't have to have read the book to come and listen into what we do, but we hope that we inspire people to read it afterwards, at least to regret they haven't read it. Or
You don't have to read it. Just go and buy it and leave a review on Amazon. I don't care if you read it.
I'm sure that is not right. But, indeed. Maybe I'll buy one for every student of mine who is in the room. Maybe. There you go. That is an interesting promise. You are yourself an academic?
I am I was an academic, yes.
Indeed.
I was a scientist, but science was a bit too slow for me. I'm too impatient for science.
Mm-hmm. Even though science saved us from COVID, that is, it worked much faster than we expected to produce.
COVID certainly sped a lot of things up for a lot of people, I think, in terms of responses. So, I remember Microsoft Teams being on the wish list, top of the priority list for my organization, and we never got it for years. And then we have a pandemic and everyone got it overnight. So it did help.
Indeed.
Speed a lot of things.
And it is quite interesting. You remind us 2 or 3 times in the book that the book itself has been written pre-COVID.
Yes.
Because it is all about, or not all about, but the virtual teams and the digitization, essentially. The digitized solutions are part of, ingrained in the solution, in the recommendations you're making. And it's quite interesting to see that you feel the need to say this is before, that is, this is essentially, you're saying this is a principle I'm talking about, not just because of COVID itself. And so yes, that would have accelerated. And I think it is not a secret, that is, you are not making it a secret, that a lot of these ideas come from your work at the NHS.
Yeah, they're all NHS-based stories.
Yes.
Excuse me.
So, in essence, we are reading about the NHS, and so lovely. Thank you. You do have, if I may continue, you do have, the slides are not moving, Himanshu. This is a previous slide. You do have a link and a relationship and almost a continuity with Professor Robank, who is a very interesting person and a personality. He's not only what he writes is nice, but also the way that he writes it and he presents. What is your relationship with him? Because he is a character in your own book, and you see, so we've got some literature.
Yeah, he is a character in the book, but he's the only real character. All the others are kind of anonymized mashups of people we meet in the workplace. But Eddie is real in the book. The stories are real as well, from my perspective, but told from my perspective. But Eddie came into to do a leadership development program for us in the NHS.
Okay.
And introduced his work and introduced Cube, which is spelt with a Q, which is his virtual 3D world. And I was at that time head of innovation, so I started to introduce Cube as a way of working in the NHS. And it did all of the things that everyone talks about. It did the collaboration, it did the alignment, it did the culture change, it did the right behaviors, it did delivery at speed and enjoying yourself. So all of the things everyone talked about, suddenly we were doing this in Eddie's 3D world. And it was so good, and it completely changed my life, completely changed how I approach things. All of his tools, which he's kindly allowed me to print in the book that he calls performance enhancement tools, just really changed how I led projects and delivered projects. And then 3 years ago, I decided to leave the NHS because it was quite frustrating trying to get change done, as people who work in big organisations probably know, and now work quite a lot with Eddie, still delivering into the NHS, but doing it from the outside. So I work very closely with Eddie now.
So as the head of innovation pre-Eddie, how good were you? Are you the person?
Oh, it's terrible. Nobody's good as the head of innovation because nobody knows what innovation even means. It's just a title that's bandied around. But if I used it as an opportunity to learn, I really learned. I said it earlier in conversation with other people. The book is based on failure. You only learn when you fail. You have to get things wrong to really learn how to do things right. And I failed miserably, but I learned so much. And then I could apply that learning into the next project or the next piece of activity I did. So, I achieved an awful lot, but I achieved it by failure. And I think when you're doing innovation, that's really, really important. It's not about buying shiny gadgets. The NHS is absolutely underfunded and under-resourced, and that's never going to change. You can throw as much money as you wanted to, it would still be underfunded and under-resourced because science and medical technology takes over and demand is just far too high. So we're never going to have the funds to do it, delivering it the way we do now. So for me, innovation was not about gadgets and buying technology and having apps on your phone that can tell you blood pressure. That stuff's all great, but it already exists. So you can go out and buy that, introduce it. It was about adopting those kind of things and about how people work. And that's always the blocker. You can buy whatever you want. If you've got, you sign on the dotted line, you can buy things, but it's getting it implemented. It's getting everyone on board with the change. It's getting people working in a different way, that they're working together to alter the same outcomes. So that was what I focused on, rather than the gadgets themselves. That can be a simple procurement exercise, actually working with the people, because it's people that constrain change. That's an Eddie quote, I think. But how do we change how we work together to deliver the change that we want? And it almost didn't matter what that change was, as long as we could shift how we worked. And that's what I focused on. So because it was people, there was a lot of exploration and failure and getting it wrong, but I learned so much from that.
That's fascinating. But Eddie himself, can I call him Eddie? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not British, and first names are always still funny to me. But Professor Roebuck, in his book, which is what now maybe 10 years old, Who Killed the Spark?
Yeah.
He's not a very good speller, is he? So the cube, the spark, or even his products is beautiful, actually.
There are cues in everything.
Yes.
We even have the team on Cube have coffee every day, and we spell coffee with a Q.
How interesting. Okay. Actually, historically, it's a very strange letter, and its existence is funny, but doesn't matter. Let's not get there. But in his book, he himself has another guru in this book. So he makes the mistakes, essentially, and he makes the mistakes after having published his other books like 10, 15 years ago. He's not a professor when he's writing this. He's now a professor. He's worked here and there, and obviously he's become a consultant to the point that you call him by coincidence or whatever to talk to the NHS because you probably are getting frustrated. But in his book, the one that we can see there, Who Killed the Spark, he has a guru. Yeah? And so now I'm getting confused between reality and because you also have Sami in your book, who is not real. And I'm not even sure if it is a person or if it's just a book like Aesop's Fables, and it just sort of exists.
Yeah.
So you are mushing our mind with like modern literature, actually, where you're not sure where the author is part of their own book, almost. Was that intentional, or is that?
For me, I probably subconsciously, having read Eddie's books, some of that was in the back of my mind. but for mine, because all the stories are real, I had to have anonymous characters because it's not about people bashing. And so Sammy is really just me. They're just stories that fell into place as tales to tell with some learning, but didn't fit into the adventure narrative in terms of making decisions. So they're really all are just, so I think there's 10 fables and 10 adventure stories. They are all things that happened, and I just use characters to be able to tell them. Because again, you know, they're told from my perspective. Other people who were there may see those stories in an entirely different way.
Indeed, but the Sami section of your book,
Yeah.
I think is fascinating in itself. Sometimes I'm thinking if I could sort of tear it all up and then bring all the Samis together, would I have a complete book in itself, something that can stand alone? And I'm guessing that it is possible in a sense. So I think that, and Sami is very subtle. So I have to. I was very impressed with that. His Sami, she, if it's you, it's she.
It was a neutral name. It could be
yes. So she or they.
anywhere.
Let me say they. Sami is a they. Is much more subtle than the guru that your professor has created. Said to the point that whenever I personally, I don't know the others in the room, when I was reading the Sami bits, I wasn't sure if actually this was some unknown writer. Of course, the discussions were very particular, and therefore it was clear that you had written them. But I was feeling, am I reading Aesop now or some story? And so well done for that.
Thank you.
If anything. But so you yourself were inspired, but is it Eddie, because reading again your book, first of all, it is an interactive book, and I was not aware of these books. You made me aware of them also. For those of you who do not know, first of all, the Change Ninja is interactive. It is like a computer game. Let me remind our audience. It is interactive, and every now and then you have to take a decision. And this decision time, and the one I've just opened up, if you decide that you will add some things and change them later to keep the peace. Oh, this is the very first one I made. I died after that. Then go to page 21.
If it wasn't
Seems
too
to open
painful.
on its own, yes. Or start to feel a bit frustrated as this isn't what you signed up for, then go to page 25. And you have that interactivity, which makes the book also in itself very interesting, because we the readers, the particular reader, myself, I'm an actor in the book itself. And I think you have said somewhere, not in this book, that you have grown up with these books.
Yes, absolutely. I loved them as a kid. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you'll be happy to know that Himanshu has bought one for his 10-year-old now. And this one is fascinating because it has 30 different endings, this particular one. As you can see, 25 endings, which I find fascinating. I actually was totally unaware of these books. And I think I'll read this, but these are more complex in the sense that they say, if you take this decision, go to page 102. If you take that decision, go to page 4. So the book itself is unreadable, while yours, you can pick it up and it is somehow linear. So, but again, a very nice trick. You must have, when are all these ideas coming to your mind? Sort of you.
Well, I had all the stories and I'd kept a note of them. So there were stories that I was telling anyway about, the ones in the book, because there was a lot of learning, and they were, for me anyway, quite funny. They still do make me laugh, even though they were years ago now. And I've always wanted to write a book since I can remember my first book I wrote was when I was like 6 or something. So it's always been an ambition. And last year, Eddie's doing an updated version of All Change. And I was just saying, actually, I'd love to write a book. And he says, whatever you do, don't write a book. It just burns all your time. You'll have no time for anything else. Do not write a book. And I like challenge.
Did he know that when
the gauntlet thrown to write a book? And I've got all these stories, and there are so many books out there on change management, and they're quite often academic tomes, and they don't, you might get something from them, but then putting that into place. People that sit in ivory towers writing books about change have never been on the shop floor. And then I just got this idea. It just came to me to do it as an adventure story with the Choose Your Own. And as soon as I got that idea, I wrote it really, really quickly because I knew the stories inside out. I was using them all the time. And it was just finding the format to make it fun, make it interactive, make it funny, make it easy to read, and just find a way to engage people in their own learning. Because again, you learn from failure, but you also learn from your own insights. So working through the book, reading through the book and making your own decisions, you will get your own insights. And hopefully readers will be able to apply that learning directly to something similar. I think, there's specific stories that happen to me, but the issues that come up are common all the time. I think we all face those issues all the time. So being able to get those insights from the learning. So again, once I'd got the challenge from Eddie and the idea of the Choose Your Own Adventure type book, it all just came together quite quickly. So yeah, it was really enjoyable writing it.
So you wrote it very quickly in essence because it was all written in your head and your notes.
Pretty
and all
much,
that.
yeah.
And I do believe that the humor does come through also, which I think is an important part of communication itself. And you've got all these characters. Probably the next slide has the characters. Himanshu, I'm not sure. Yes, so you've got the big cheese, the mini cheddars, the big boss. The boss seems to have helped you more than anything else.
The boss in real life, the boss changed quite a few times. So it depends on when the story was told. But even the ones that weren't helpful helped in a way. It's just another challenge to take on, isn't it?
Indeed. But in this group of characters that you have there, you have another, I think, bit that is inspiring you, I'm guessing, and therefore I'm asking, which are the pirates. And you are trying to be more pirate yourself. So, and you do list this, I like this very much. We are a book club after all. You do list a set of books that have inspired you in writing this book. So thank you for that, actually, because now I have fine books to read. maybe I wouldn't have had. But tell us a bit about this pirate idea, sort of. How,
So the pirates is one of it's interesting because when I was finishing the book, the publisher wanted me to list a book, provide a list of change management books for references. And I was like, I don't read change management books. I do change management. So it's quite a challenge. But the pirates book, there's 2 pirates book, Be More Pirate and How to Be More Pirate. And the first one just landed just at the right time for me and absolutely inspired me. So if you've not read Be More Pirate, I would really recommend it. And it is the story of pirates. Most of us don't know the actual story of pirates, and I don't want to kind of give away the story too much, but they were really forward-thinking pirates. And they did all the things that we talked around collaboration and empowerment and alignment and shared, so it's a really good story. And one of the bits is that they always add a list of rules. They would come up, pirates created their own rules and they all stuck to it. so there was that shared sense of responsibility. It didn't matter if, you know, if you were the guy that scrubbed the deck or if you were the captain, and they chose their own captain and they could de-check. So democracy, all of that good stuff. So really, really good book, landed at the right time. And I got in touch with Sam and Alex Barker, who's kind of taken up much of the mantle, and did a bit of stuff with them. And they've created a really good crew. So if people are interested, there's meetup groups that meet on a regular basis. And it's just people that are trying to do some good things, and they've formed a crew to support and help each other. The stories that come out of it are amazing. The second book, How to Be More Pirate, was a lot of case studies. So they featured some of the stuff I'd done with Eddie in there. But it's just a really nice bunch of people who just want to enact good change. And it's hard to do. So they've created a crew that meets in various different ways. And there's lots of local groups, and there's the national group, and there's international groups. It's a place to go and be supported and get that. Sometimes you need to just have that place where people will listen and support you through your pain of trying to do the good stuff. Because it's always
Indeed.
hard.
Of course, we are a seafaring country in this here, and I am Greek, so I come from a seafaring country also, where we've cleaned up our history, but we were actually pirates.
Yeah.
when we were poorer and all that. So there may be something, and I am also a great fan of Johnny Depp, whatever he's done. So Pirates of the Caribbean, I think, are beautiful because they have that peroration and they have rules in the films. In the Pirates of the Caribbean, there is a pirate says we cannot do that. That's not in the rules, or that. And I so, but I haven't read this book.
Yeah, it's really worth a read. There's a lot of misconception about pirates that comes out of the book. So,
but you start the book very much with the corridor of doom.
Doom.
Doom. Yeah, did I not say doom?
Doom in the corridor of gloom. Yes.
Yes, and that. And you had visuals where when you launched the book itself inside Cube, there was a visual, but that was a battle you lost. You did not get a room. Did you get? Am I right in thinking you were talking about a room? You wanted to put grass in it. The grass was too real for in the end of the day, and you had to sort of save the grass or whatever, distribute the grass. But also, I think I've seen somewhere that the room itself was somewhere on the top floor, hidden. Actually, it wasn't even a room. It wasn't sort of next to the corridor of doom or something. It was actually, you must have been walking up and down some sort of big building to find the room. Yes, and you thought that would be a nice space, being just a space, but you lost that argument. That is,
I didn't lose the argument. I chose not to argue. I chose to give in. I decided not to argue that one.
Tell us about this, because this idea about learning from your failures, and actually you turned that. You seem to manage to put a chip in that I've lost this battle, but the next one will be won because I lost this one. That is the people you are influencing, even the person who has beat you down, whatever blocked you.
Yeah, so this was about creating a creative space in an old bit of the building that wasn't used, and the Steely governance manager decides it's too risky, even though we're meant to be taking risk. I think on reflection at the time, I realized it wasn't going to achieve that much. It was a kind of, we have these ideas and I think it would be great. It wouldn't achieve that much, and it would have needed an awful lot of resource to make it work. So I decided that it probably on balance wasn't really worth the investment of time. But I always use, when you give in, always use it to get brownie points. So you know, make it clear that you're acquiescing, and but they're going to need to support you on the next thing because you need to do something. So, and remind them, if you do things like this, whether you do a good thing for someone or you've given into something based on their kind of rules, just remind them next time you talk to them. So it wasn't worth doing, but it was a way of gaining some brownie points, if you like, to get something else through the next time.
With innovation, because we are talking about innovation, you are the head of innovation, and I think Eddie has said that he was trying to direct innovation, and that was an oxymoron in essence, and then therefore innovation, and we know that also from Lerwick's books that we have done with Himanshu, the design handbooks, where he actually creates space, and he says we need a space to be creative and innovative. We need a space for that, and you are losing the room. You do not get the room, which according to other writers is an important thing. And we look at the Google offices and all that, and they are a space which allows innovation, very much like the one that you were describing. So without that space, where does your innovation happen? Or is the space not important?
I think the space is really important, but I think it was too soon. We didn't have the culture or any, you know, nobody had the permission, nobody felt anyone that this was a possibility. So there was no culture to use the space. So we would have had to work really, really hard to try and get people to use the space. And I think it wouldn't have got used that much. So it would have taken up most of my time to try and shift that. So I think the space, the environment is really, really important. But in that particular instance, it was the wrong time. It was too soon. So I went back with the volunteers to the drawing board, and we came up with slightly different ways of creating different environments for learning and sharing that were a bit easier, a bit more chunkable, if you like, a bit less of a big requirement from people to get them moving. So my learning from all of that was not the giving in and, you know, getting the brownie points. It was around, it needs to be at the right time and the pace, and to focus on the thing that's going to, if you're going to come up with a solution for something, a thing, you have to have the requirement, not just the requirement, but there needs to be a will to use it. So it took me, you know, that kind of one of my first learnings was that we need to go back to actually what we're trying to do here and what the blockers are for people doing it and work on those. So it was unlocking some of that was more important at that stage than actually having the, you know, the Google headquarters fake grass kind of room that nobody would have really used.
Indeed, and you've got all these management tools. I suspect they're all from Professor Obeng, the management tools
95%
themselves,
of them are Eddie's.
and they are all trademarked. And we did discuss that, I think, in our first meeting, that I'm always scared about trademarks and things.
Do you know, if you're using them for learning and teaching, they're in Eddie's books. If you're using them to make money, he's going to not be happy. So there's that balance of how to use them, but using them in the workplace, that, you know, if you buy the book and you read it, you're going to use it with your team. That's the whole point of it. Indeed.
They are very, very nice books. I try and I teach about business cases, and hence responsible project management, that the business case itself has to lead to a responsible solution, not have these benefits or unintended benefits. I'm more concerned with the unintended consequences of a project than not. And then I see all these tools which actually make a business case. You do business cases in 20 minutes or something.
Yeah. Easily in 20 minutes.
So there goes my job. So take us through that. Is it the tool, the management tool, the simplicity of the management tool?
Yeah.
Are you doing this in the cube and therefore the cube is helping? Or are you physically somewhere? Is it a Teams meeting? How do you do these?
So it doesn't need to be on Cube, but it works better on Cube because there are some, like the Pirates, there's some basic rules around working together. So we write before we talk, which means everyone contributes equally. There's no hierarchy. We do something called spin casting. So we check in with everybody who's in the space. So everybody gets a voice. So it shifts the behaviors and it makes it much more equal. So you're hearing from the loud people and the quiet people. It doesn't matter which position you're in. So there's that. Second thing is Eddie's tools. So we would, for a business case, we would do something called a gap leap. And we focus on what the problem is. What is the problem we're trying to fit? A lot of business cases are about solutions, but solutions to what? And is the what the problem that we need to fix? So we really push for what is the problem we need to fix? Why do we need to be innovative? I wrote a blog today. Why do we need digital transformation? Nobody has ever told me what the problem is we're trying to resolve with digital transformation is. We've gone straight into we need to digitally transform. So what is the core problem that we're trying to fix and pushing for that? When you've got that, your entire team is aligned on the problem. And then if we don't fix it, what will happen? If we do fix it, what are the outcomes? And then really importantly, why haven't we fixed it? Not what the solutions are, but why haven't we fixed it? And where would we start? And you can do that in easily 15, 20 minutes with a team on Cube. You will all be aligned and tell the same story, and you've prioritized where you need to start. Now, if you're writing a business case, you know, a 40 million business case for a massive change program, that's not all of your data. But what we do have is a PET called report. So I would say PET, the performance enhancement tools, and that tells you which of the other PETs to use to get all of the data. So a really good case study I did was with NHS Health Board, who needed to replace their laboratory systems. It was going to be around £40 million business case, and nobody, and I mean nobody, wanted to even start that project because you know the pain of writing such a thing. We did it in 6 weeks with an hour a week on Cube. We used the right PETs to get the data. In between those sessions, they would go and collect more information from various stakeholders. We worked out who the difficult stakeholders were going to be, who were the ones that would go against this in the board meeting. I then gave them the tools and taught them how to go and engage with those people. So by the time it went to the board meeting, 6 weeks later, all the stakeholders had been engaged or on board. We'd got all of the outcomes that people wanted prioritized. Somebody took all of the work we'd done on Cube and put it into the template that they needed to do, because there's always a template that you need to do in the NHS. And it only had one review by the team. There was no track changes. They'd exported the data. So everybody's data was in there. We'd already agreed the content. The only thing we did as a team was just review it quickly and check it still made sense. It was a sense check. Went to the board. It got signed off immediately because all the stakeholders had bought into it. And it was such a good business case, it became a national program. Scottish Government took it up as a national business case. So multi-million pounds business case. It didn't take just 20 minutes. The initial bit took 20 minutes, but that got the team aligned and on board. But it took six sessions on Cube doing an hour a week. And that was it. All of that, the engagement, the writing up, the content, and getting it through the board. So I challenge anyone to come back and say they managed to do a business case that quickly in a different way. You know, it was maybe a day, it was a team of 6. It maybe took a day of everyone's time in total. It was really fast.
That is fast and fascinating, very much so. Would anyone else want to ask a question? I would love this conversation to continue, but I'm conscious that I'm not the only one in the room, virtual or not. Well, I am the only one in this room, but it doesn't matter. There are some chat points, I think, things that are coming in the chat. I'm not sure if they're questions or not, or suggestions.
Just comments, no questions.
There is some 4D matrix as well on Cube, which I can share after this. There's quite a few of those, so I'll ping those over.
Oh, thank you.
But this matrix, this 2x2 matrix looks very much like the Ralph Stacey model of complexity, right? Where on one axis they talk about the requirements, which is the what, and on the second axis they talk about the solution approach, which is the how. And then they kind of say, okay, well, how do we manage this change?
I don't know that. What I do think is interesting is using this is quite a lot of people apply paint by numbers process to all change. And most change that we're doing now is either a quest or a fog. And I did this yesterday with somebody who was leading a digital transformation program, and his preference for delivery was a paint by numbers. He wanted to know what he was doing and when he was doing it. And he was leading digital transformation. There's a massive gap there in leadership. He's like, he might do it well, but he's going to be really stressed all the time. So knowing that, knowing who's in your team, how do you fill those gaps? How do you find someone who's comfortable with leading a quest or a fog if you're a paint by numbers person? And making sure you've got all the right people in your team to do that. Very, very few projects are paint by numbers. Because we've not done them before. When we've never done transformation, we don't know what transformation is. That's the whole point of transformation. It's something very different and we don't know what it is yet.
There are variants of this, but I find this, and I think that is again the professor. He has a knack with words, and he does find better words. So I found myself using this the next day I saw it, and therefore ditched all the other variants or my fumbling trying to explain things, because we are a course, and therefore we have to teach painting by numbers. I think we undervalue the painting by numbers projects themselves. They do exist, but when it comes to innovation, when it comes to creativity, by definition, painting by numbers or the methods, you do mention Prince 2 once, I think. Does not work exactly. That is fair enough, and that is the whole point about change. The one thing that I am always baffled with change management is that the two words change management almost very quickly do not appear on their own, and the word digital just intercedes, and it is digital change. It's always a digital change. It is not a change. And what I am hankering for is real change. We said about the NHS, for example, that the strategy from the beginning is wrong. It is impossible. This thing cannot change. So any digital change you do internally will actually make no difference to the NHS itself. And sometimes I am wondering, are we ourselves hiding behind the comfort of digital change? We know it is foggy, we know it is questy and all that, but we are not playing with a bigger problem, which is purely human, as opposed to between human and machine, which is the digital change, is to change essentially my attitudes and use the digital world more. They're not. We are not doing AI so that the digital world is doing everything for us. And that bit always, whenever I hear the word digital, I'm thinking this is nice, it is lovely, but it is fogging off a bigger problem.
So two things I'd like to say is paint by numbers. If you're doing a fog or a quest and you chunk down your project, so we describe quest as King Arthur sending out his knights to find the Holy Grail. So he brought all his knights together. I want to find the Holy Grail. So he knew what, but he didn't know how. He gave them 3 months, a sack of money. It says come, and told them which bit of the world to go into. Come back in 3 months and report back. That bit then becomes a paint by numbers. So you can still apply your paint by numbers process, but you want to chunk it down into a tiny bit. And then that's where your paint by numbers people come in, whether it's a week's worth of activity or a month's worth. So you can chunk down your fog and your quest into small paint by numbers projects. Just don't do a 3-year Gantt chart because it'll fall over. You'll fall off a cliff. The second thing is, if technology, if software was the answer to all of our issues and our problems and our challenges, we wouldn't have them. There is so much software out there. It's that, you know, whether it's Basecamp or a Trello board, they've not fixed the problem because they're not about human connection. I used to get really annoyed with the Microsoft Teams adverts saying, you know, get Teams and you'll be able to collaborate. It's just SharePoint. It's just a way that you can all access the same documents at the same time. That's not collaboration. Collaboration's working out loud on problems. So the digital bit really bugs me because it's not, because the problem hasn't been defined that we're trying to fix. And there's an assumption that if we throw in some technology, we'll all be able to work better together. And that we've got all the technology. COVID sped up the Zoom, the Teams, all of that. We've got all of that. So buying more technology is not going to change it because we haven't worked out what the problem is we're trying to fix. And it is human. And technology, other than Cube's designed for humans. It's not software and it's not technology. It's about it. We call it humanware. It's about enabling humans to act and behave the way humans act and behave in a good way. Most technology requires humans to change their behaviors to be able to use the technology. It's technology behavior focused, not human behavior focused. And that is the big challenge I think we've got.
Indeed, and but it's trying to experience, very difficult to share the experience of Cube itself as a better environment because it is, from what you're saying, better than the human meeting, a totally human meeting, because you don't have the loudspeaker or the someone who may dominate or things like that. I'm not 100% sure of that, even though I have seen a share of bullies.
It's hard to explain because it's completely different to anything you've seen, and the best way to get it is to experience it. Christina's been on Cube and is a big fan. It's an experience thing. It's a bit like, I just well, Eddie describes it as, but I steal all of his stories. I don't know if anyone's been to Japan, but they have a very different culture. You know, if you're going to go to a Japanese tea party, you need to learn a very different culture and learn how to behave. It's a bit like that. You can read about it in a book, but you're not really going to understand what's going on until you attend and experience it. And Cube's a bit like that. You go into a different country, you need a guide to tell you how to behave in this new culture, and you still, until you experience it, you won't fully realize what it's all about, because it's not technology. Technology is easy to explain. You know, you've got a Trello board, a Kanban board, your to-do list. It's easy to explain, but that's just activity. It's not about human behavior and connection.
Indeed, and I think you do say somewhere that communication is not engagement, and you're essentially after engagement, not just communication, which I thought was a nice little phrase.
It's a bugbear when people produce something and email it out and say, I've engaged all my stakeholders and none of them have come back to me. It's like, because you haven't engaged them, you just sent them some work to do.
An engagement may lead to a forced marriage. Yes, that's not an engagement. Indeed, and you the moves that you have, the ninja bit. We haven't talked about the ninja much, you've got phrases like getting the turkeys to vote for Christmas. And you have this story using one of the tools, the IDB. I think it's the next slide. I think yes. And the story that you use to explain it, that's the cube itself, for those who do not know. But the story that you use is to get a dog.
Oh yes.
And you're almost afraid to use it. You're saying it's a simple. We put this slide to annoy you, actually. as what the internet thinks change management is.
Oh, I see. It's got the word measure on it.
There you go.
Measuring the pig does not make it fatter.
Indeed.
So that's another Eddie one.
Okay, I did not know that. Fair enough. But you're almost apologetic using the story of the dog. On the other hand, I thought that story was a lovely, sweet story. And,
it's, you know, whenever I teach it, I get a result from it. It's great. So somebody always has a challenge. I don't know if you've got the IDQB there. So
it
what
may
is the
be the
issue?
next slide. I'm not sure.
What is the issue? So what is the issue? What is the data you have? And what is the question you're going to ask? And you don't ever talk about the solution. It's a way of engaging someone who doesn't agree with what you're doing. They might understand it, but they don't agree with what you're doing. So I took a group of nurses through a leadership program on Cube, and I was teaching IDQB. And I said, who's got a challenge? And one of them wanted a dog, and her husband was adamant she wasn't going to get a dog. So we worked on it. And rather than going in with trying to persuade him that a dog was the right answer, the issue was that he worked away from home a lot and she was quite lonely. And then we presented the data of, you know, a dog would help me meet people in the area. It would provide company at night. So I could go to dog training classes and meet new people. So it was all data. There was no facts. There was no opinions. And I can't remember what the question was that we used, but the question's really important, and the question has to be about them doing something or you doing something. So I think the question was probably something around, have you got any ideas of what I could do to feel less lonely while you're away from home? And of course he just said, just get a dog. It always works. I've even used it on Eddie, and I don't think he's noticed at the time. He's noticed later. But it's really hard to do. So I always say you have to practice it. Practice it on really small things. And when you've got it, you can do it on the spot. So that earlier example of the creative space with the Steely governance manager, if I'd have gone into battle with them, I would have used IDQB. And the issue wasn't about the space. The issue was that we didn't have a way of staff working in different ways. And that's what we were trying to encourage. And then all of the data around environment and presenteeism. And then my question to them would have been, what are you going to do to demonstrate that you mean business by this program, and how can I help you? And if I'd have done that, they would have allowed me to have that space, because they wouldn't have wanted to do anything.
They would have recommended it. You would have made them recommend it, and
they would have put their name on that stuff. Exactly. But never suggest the solution, and keep all of your opinions and emotion out of it. Just base it on facts. But getting the issue right and the question right are key. But it's a fantastic tool. I use it all the time, and you will get your results.
This is very humbling, and maybe humble is the key word. There it is. There it looks one back. Yeah, that is it. It looks very gray actually, when you see it. And I think what you have said in the book also is try it with your dog essentially.
Yeah.
Try it at home, and then you get used to it. And once you get used to it, as you expressed now, then it becomes natural and it is effective. So
try it on the smallest of things, you know, someone not emptying the dishwasher or hanging the clothes up or putting the coats in the cupboard. Use it on the smallest of things, and don't come up with the solution. You can't tell someone how to do something. They need to come up with it themselves. But it always works, but practicing it. Yeah.
Indeed, and that would be found in page 105 of your book, apparently, from this slide. We're coming close to the end of the time. I don't know, Christina, would you like to ask anything? You are such a loyal ninja.
I've enjoyed listening to you ask questions from Tammy, and enjoyed the flow. I'm really enjoying the book, and because I'm moving into kind of like a change space, it's really nice to have the stories and things, and then to look at what's happening around me and find ways to quietly change things, as opposed to presenting a big change and then how we're going to make everyone comply. So from that perspective, I really, really enjoyed the books. Stories are really important. That's how I learn things. And the book's awesome. Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you.
And this slide is intentionally empty because there are many ninjas on it, but you cannot really.
If you're spotted, your ninja moves aren't good enough.
Indeed. And I think, and you've got this at the end of your book, this is the distillation that you have provided for us. And I have to thank you for that. As an academic, it is easy for me to take that. It is a paragraph in you. I've made it into essentially bullets. That's my nature. But there we go. But this idea of learning when to let go, this you have made that very, very clear with the examples. Yes, and then the focusing people to reach their insights, and this idea, which is actually plain idea. Actually, it is Aristotelian. I don't know if you do realize that, but that is what Aristotle said. Let us understand the problem, and then we will solve the problem through the heart first, and then the logic. This idea, and these 5 or 6 people that you have who have asked for your help, and you mentioned that they were very smart themselves, and you actually say they were smart 2 or 3 times. So that's okay. They are smart and all that, but they actually have different solutions for. Because they are smart, essentially, and that is what they do. They come up with ideas, and the fact that their ideas actually do not solve exactly the same problem, or is I think a beautiful little epilogue in your in the book itself. You do talk about gut feel, which is interesting in itself, and you do have an example where also Sami, I think, has helped us in that too. Gut feel. I love that, but I think that needs a bit more thinking. But I think what that means is that there is too much overthinking out there.
Yeah.
We're taking 1 year to just decide the business case and all that. So just essentially get on with it. And we learn from our mistakes. And you do have the crew. You create your own crew. That is Schopenhauer, actually, that more and more people start agreeing with you. And then when that happens, there is a turn. It's almost like UNESCO's rhinoceros, and my feeling of your crew is that the crew grows. You haven't got the growth, but you need them. These are not. You are not going alone. And there are people who want to improve this world, this institution, this whatever. They love it or whatever. And we are purposeful, and I think that comes very nicely through your book. And all these words are from your book. These are not ours, just in case someone is listening, and all that. These are definite. These are transcribed. So thank you.
Thank you
for that. I think time is pressing us, even though in a virtual world, I'm not sure what time means, but there we go. Himanshu, back to you.
Yes, no, thank you, Nick and Tammy, for that wonderful conversation. Once again, I mean, we really enjoyed this book, and I think this is, as you say, it is a handbook. We never stop referring to it. We keep on going back to it. So, well, thank you once again. And thank you for your suggestion for our next book. I will reach out to Sam, and if not, then I probably might nudge you to make an introduction.
I can do that.
But no, thank you once again. And thank you everyone for joining us on this month-long journey for reading the Change Ninja Handbook.
Are you writing another book, Tommy?
I have a few ideas.
Okay. Well, go to
Well-
Eddie to tell you not to write them, and then we wait.
So one is with Eddie,
Okay.
and yeah, and my other idea is thinking about expanding the characters a little more, and
Okay.
trying to understand each of the characters, because again, I think they're pretty common, and we're all one of those characters, or one or more of those characters, depending on situation. So
Okay.
I'll stop
ideas.
recording now.